Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the 23rd and best episode of the Hashcast. I am your host, Hashtagonist, and as always, I have a guest way cooler than myself, my good friend, Charles Singletary. How are you, buddy?
I am well. Greetings, everybody. Kind of glad that I'm on the Michael Jordan episode 23.
That is the Michael Jordan episode.
Jordan.
The good Jordan. Yeah, who's the bad Jordan nowadays?
I think his number was it 45? I think was when he came back. I can't recall. Okay. I just remember the good stuff.
We're straight into basketball, so I just lost both of my viewers, but that's all good. It's all good. So for the one or two people that might not know who you are, Charles, can you give us a quick recap on who are you and what do you do?
Currently, I am the Shaq news editor. I've been that a little over a year now.
Oh, wow.
I started off writing for free for a few websites way back in the day. Mm-hmm. Then started freelancing for a few publications. Pixelkin, Playboy, Vice, Vice/Motherboard, and like a print magazine. Mm-hmm. Started doing those, then started writing for Upload VR after that point, and from there to Shaq News, where I am now.
Yeah, well, I followed you since, I think, Motherboard.
Okay.
And I remember the very exact moment that we became online friends, and that was playing Divinity Original Sin.
Yes.
I believe, together. And I was busting down a door, and we were just chatting, and they were like, And since then, I've known you actually for quite like 2 years, I think 2-3 years.
Yeah, it's been a while. That was Divinity Enhanced Edition on consoles.
Yes,
I think is what,
indeed,
on PS4,
indeed. So I've had the pleasure of following your career, and I think it's probably a career that a lot of people who are trying to get in this industry could look at. Because I'm not saying should look at, because it's hard to replicate the success that you've had, but I kind of want to bring it back to like your origin story, because I talked to a lot of people who are working in the games industry, and I always find it interesting to hear like what was the point, what was it that made you decide I want to be a participant in this industry? Do you remember that still?
I think I was always interested in it. I actually had a conversation with my first published piece that I was actually paid for. I had a conversation with my parents. It was about my parents kind of cultivating my interest in gaming, mm-hmm. and pushing me along. And one of the conversations I had was with my dad, and he said ever since I was little, like the magazines that I would read, Nintendo Power, mm-hmm. Electronic Gaming Monthly was around, but it was like super huge at that point. And PlayStation Magazine, he said that he couldn't fathom the idea of someone, writing full time about gaming at that point. Mm-hmm. But I was showing him these magazines and telling him about them then. So the interest started there, but I didn't really start to really understand it until I was blogging for myself. Mm-hmm. It started off with music and film. Mm-hmm. It started off with just film, actually. Yeah. And then I started writing with a guy, Leon Sullen. He was known as King LJ. He's still known as that. That's his artist name now, but that was also what he wrote under. Mm-hmm. He got me writing about movies. I was going to every new release every week, doing mm-hmm. reviews for everything. Oh. And that got me into a rhythm of, having responsibilities and being dependable and that discipline as well. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to write about games more. So I started pitching some of the stuff that kind of crossed over. Yeah. And that led me to the Coalition. Okay. I actually wrote about hip hop and gaming. Mm-hmm. In one article is what I pitched them, and they accepted it, and I started writing from there. And that's kind of like the really like the actual starting point of covering games consistently.
I remember your time with the Coalition because I always highly enjoyed your spats with, I think he's the lead editor, Tony Blanco, who you pretty much never agreed with, I feel. Or maybe that's
pretty just,
much. What made it
No, that's consistent now. Yeah. That's the same.
That's still the same. So what was your first paid piece? What did you say that was? What was
my first paid piece was pixelkin.com, and that was writing about my parents.
Okay.
Cultivating my interest in games.
Okay, that's
mainly my mom.
That is a pretty cool origin story, I would say, right there. But it just picked off, and so I still remember my first paid piece, of course. But then all of a sudden it goes into the spin of I'm doing this freelance, I'm making some money. Is that a train I hear in the background?
That is a train.
Okay, I was like, I'm not sure if that's my echo or a train. Doesn't matter. We'll just talk straight through. When did you know that you could do this professionally? Was it after the first pay piece? Because it takes a couple
I think that was it.
Yeah.
I think that was it, because I love the time that I was spending with Coalition, but it's hard to do that for free and then just think, I could do this professionally, because you're not seeing any kind of income. Granted, they were doing well enough that they could pay for us to play, to have a hotel at E3, so we paid for the flight to go out there.
Yeah.
And being around that, I guess that going to that event solidified the fact that I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
I didn't know if I could or not at that point, but that's when I was like, all right, this is home for me. This is what I would love. This is, meeting all of these different people that I've been talking to over the internet. I would love to be a part of this consistently.
Yeah.
But when I got the piece commissioned by Pixelkin, and also I want to shout out David Jagno, because I met him through the Coalition.
Yeah.
And a large part of getting published with Pixelkin was his encouragement and like pushing me to do it. And we've kind of done that for each other, back and forth.
Dave's a wonderful guy. Yeah.
Yeah, he's an incredible human. I consider him one of my best friends, and met him through this industry. Yeah. And I actually have a funny story about us writing about games. I'll get to that a little bit later. Not too many people know about it, but getting back to where I was, I got that published, and I saw that check, and then I got Playboy check right after that, and then it clicked. I was like, people aren't just reading my stuff just because, and I'm getting it published for free. They actually think there's some value to it, and they're willing to pay me that value as well. Yeah. So that's when it really clicked for me.
Yeah, and I love it, because there I think there's many people, and I include myself in that have been writing for free on the internet. Then they get a commission. All of a sudden you realize you might be good enough to do this, but you went like the extra mile. Like you turned this into a career, into a living. Are you fully into it right now? This is your job.
100%. This is my job. This is what pays every single bill that I have. I am living 100% off of my writing, which is what I've wanted to accomplish this entire time, and I got there. And one thing I would like to address, and I'm sure you've come across it as well. A lot of people have lengthy conversations about writing for free. Everyone feels very strongly about it either way you go.
Yeah.
And I understand the people that say you shouldn't do it. Obviously, I'm one of the people that did do it, but the thing that I got from it is, while you're writing for free, understand that you're writing for free. Yeah. Take from it what you can, and don't invest too much into it. I had other jobs while I was doing that, so it felt like a side thing. With my free time, I was writing for the Coalition. I wrote for a video game blog as well. I almost wrote with PlayStation Universe. And it was, I understood that this is I'm experimenting here. I'm testing this out to see if I'm good at it and see if there's something to be gained. Like, could I move forward with it? Yeah,
no, and I agree with you 100%, because I see the conversation all the time. And I think I wrote for free for a long time. I still write for free every now and then, just because I have that creative urge. And in my previous day job, I just couldn't do it. So I was doing myself a favor by writing and staying informed. But I like what you said, like know why you're doing it, and see this as a hobby and not as a career at that point, until you get to that first E3 and make those connections. And then you either have to make it a turning point, or do whatever you want to do for as long as you can. But I think if you start hitting like the bigger outlets who are obviously making money off your work, that's when you have to start sending some invoices. But if you are writing for a small site who are just a bunch of hobbyists who get to go to E3 sometimes, like, don't feel bad about that. Like, and don't look down on that kind of free labor. I agree on that as well. But yeah, no, I find it so amazing how you turned this into a career, and I got to witness it like from the start, which is super cool.
That's true.
But now I want to know that story about you and David, because he sounds like he had quite the influence on this as well. So if people are listening, they probably have to start making friends with David right away.
Yeah, definitely. So that story is actually, it ties into something else about writing for free.
Okay.
While, like I said, know what you're getting out of it. That means you're going to run into a lot of sites that are asking you to write for free with the promise of some kind of compensation in the future, or potentially, or just flat out telling you that your compensation is exposure, or the free games.
Yeah.
I understand that. That's pretty much bullshit. Like the whole exposure thing.
Yeah.
The exposure that I ended up getting from Coalition, which they never told me any of that. No. That's not any kind of BS story that they gave me. I got it by interacting with these guys, meeting David, meeting Tony, meeting Rich and Gary and all of them. Tatiana, I think you talked to her quite a bit.
Yes. She's fantastic.
Creating those relationships and then pivoting off into other relationships. That's probably my biggest gain for writing for free at that point. Plus, I was very lucky to be writing with Coalition, with a bunch of people I actually enjoyed working with. And then, so me and David ended up with an opportunity to basically run a website. David initiated the conversation with the guy, and he brought over two people, me and a guy named Garrett. Oh, no, not Garrett. That wasn't Garrett. It was a different guy. I don't think he covers anything anymore. He doesn't do game writing. But the plan was we were going to be picking this up from a group of people that abandoned it, and building it from the ground up. It was PlayStation University is what it was. And so we were basically turning fully into the university vibe. We had these different classes, which stood for the different features, and we were going to do, podcasts and video series and the whole nine. But the owner of the site was pretty terrible. So we had all these plans and we were trying to get them going. We were doing the work, but the site kept going down.
Okay.
And he basically wasn't timely on the back end of things, and it just unraveled completely. It sucked, but it brought me and David closer. Because we were
bonding over a common enemy.
We weren't getting paid for this. It was possibly if it gets to that point, we'd be getting paid. So we were like, yeah, we could do this, and we really think if we had somebody backing that up, it would probably be pretty big to this point. But it fell apart, and we started from that point. We went back to Coalition. We never left them really, but we put more time into that, but then started exploring things outside of the Coalition as well. So that definitely propelled both of us on major paths to where we are now.
I want to talk about one part of your major path, because I think Dave was involved in it as well. Upload VR.
He was.
Because that went sour, and not on your end, but just the brand of Upload VR, because of what happened at headquarters. And if you don't know what happened, there was a lot of sexism and just some all around terrible shit going on at the headquarters. Although the writers, as I understood, were a completely different team, were remote, but you carried the brand. So
we were the face of it.
And we talked about this a little bit on behind the scenes, because that was, I think, I don't think it was your first E3, but it was, I think it was my first E3 or maybe my second. That all went down. It didn't hurt your career, obviously, because you're doing very well for yourself. But that must have been a scary couple of months.
It didn't hurt it because the perfect storm of things happened for me personally. But I saw the end during it, and it was terrifying, pretty much. So, me and David were both working for Upload VR. That was a situation where it's actually interesting there. I totally forgot about this, but that was when I made the decision of going full-time on writing before that. I live in San Antonio right now. I was living in San Antonio at that point, and I had a decision where my roommate had just gotten married. So I was like, I can continue working where I'm currently working at a hospital and writing on the side for freelance, or I could attempt to write full-time. And I decided to write full-time. I moved back home to Alabama. Cost of living was a bit cheaper just because of the connections that I had there. But the job I had was writing for CBR, Comic Book Resources. Didn't pay very well.
No.
I didn't quite overestimated it.
Yeah.
The pay, I underestimated the work that I would have to do to make a living wage. But while I was doing that, David and Ian at Upload were like, "Hey, we have these things. Since you're writing, working from home, you can do these extra things covering VR for us." So I was like, "Yeah, please," and it paid more, and I just did it so consistently and I assume well that I ended up working into having a basically contract position with them. So that's how I ended up with Upload VR. Things were, going pretty good. I was remotely interested in VR before that. I learned a whole lot about it in that process. I was more focused on the gaming side personally, but I learned about the entire scope of it while I was there. And then everything happened. I'm fully aware of how fucked up the tech world can be, or I mean, just the world in generally, but specifically the tech world when it comes to sexism and just rampant things that happen. I was familiar with everything that happened with Uber, structurally from top to bottom with their, not even just consumer wise, but within the business, Silicon Valley overall. In general, it's always a problem. I didn't think that we were invincible. I just never thought it would hit home, and I'm sure that happens with everyone. So it basically was, I woke up one day and there was a story out. I can't remember the publication that ran it. It may have been Digital Trends. They may have been the first one.
It started super small. I was like, this might even blow over without anyone picking this up. But it didn't.
I did not think that, though.
No. Well, you were in the middle of it,
because
it took like 2 days.
Was big enough.
Yeah.
When I saw what website it came from, the very first article, I was like, this is big enough that other people are going to pay attention to it. And that's exactly what happened. You're right. It did take 2 days, but I just internally, we knew it was going to happen. But what sucked, and of course I can't speak for anyone else. No. And I was the newest person to the bunch out of everything. So I was also the farthest removed from it. But to put in perspective, for people that don't know at this point, the editorial team was entirely remote. I was in Texas. David's in California, but not in LA or San Francisco. There's another guy in California that's not very far from where David lived, also not in LA and San Francisco. There's a guy in the UK. We're all over, right? Our editor-in-chief was in North Carolina at that point. So the offices, which were in LA and San Francisco, are where everything came from. Where it's just all this ridiculous sexism with the two owners of the site, essentially, plus a few people below them, and these ridiculous stories. The sex room, crazy story. Sex room. The sex room. I've never been to the office to this day. I've never been there, so I know that a room exists that was called the sex room by this whole story. I kind of have an idea of what happened to lead up to that point, and it's not the reason why it was called that is not as bad what actually happened in the room. So the things that happened in the room, whatever. Elizabeth worked in that office, so she saw the things that happened there. So I definitely respect her take on everything. And there were other people involved as well. And, I wish in peace. It seems like everybody's better off now for the most part. But all of that started happening. And then from my perspective was my initial thought was, I can't be attached to this. No. And I admit at first it was for a very selfish reason. And that selfish reason was, this is my first time writing with the actual position. Doing what I like writing about the tech world. And I was like, I can't have my name attached to this on my first go. No. That was. I
remember I think you just received your E3 badges with your name and Upload VR on it.
Yes. And it was that was my second E3 that I was going to. And I'm like, oh man. So then conversations behind the scenes kind of put everything else into perspective. And to be upfront, like my thought process was these people are pieces of shit.
Yeah.
That created this problem.
Mm-hmm.
The way they're handling the problem, wasn't a fan of that.
No.
Part of that process was that we couldn't really talk. I could have said something because I was contract.
Yeah.
They barely knew who I was at that point. But I didn't have any firsthand accounts of anything.
No.
But one thing that bothered me so much was that we couldn't say that we weren't a part of it. We couldn't say anything.
No.
So people started saying stuff to David. It never happened to me, thank goodness, but David would be tweeting something. Somebody said something to him on Twitter just because we're the public facing part of things. I think it happened to Ian as well. And that was a really shitty position for them to be in, like for all of us, but I felt really, really bad for them, especially because they've been there longer than me.
Yeah.
So they were much more invested in this. This was their lives, you know?
Yeah, this was paying the bills. I talked to David behind the scenes as well. Like he was like, "Fuck my life." I think his wife was pregnant. He just got married.
Just bought a house.
Yeah, just bought a house. Yeah, he just bought a house. Yeah. And
so,
then that.
Like with So like with me, you know, pretty quickly the selfish part I kind of like pushed to the side. I was like, I feel like I can bounce back from this. Yeah. You know, at some point. I felt really bad for them. I was like, I want this situation to be better so they can continue doing what they love and paying their bills. So things just didn't get better as quickly as I hoped. So I was like, all right, well, I'm not going to write for this company anymore if these people are still in control of it, because there were conversations of maybe they won't be anymore. You know, maybe they will.
Yeah, clean up shop.
And I was just hanging on to like, oh, if these guys are gone, then we can rebuild. Something can be done. It can be improved. Yeah, it didn't happen.
No.
So I started seeking other places to look, but E3 happened in the middle of all this. Yeah. So, man, I was terrified to go to E3 with a big upload VR on my badge. Yeah. Luckily, only one conversation went how I expected it to go with everything. Where it was like, oh, who do you write for? And then I said that, and they were like, oh, and I was like, oh, god dang it. But the first day there was probably the hardest day I've had writing full time, because it, like, as I was walking through, you know, E3 heading to appointments, it hit me that this might be the last time that I can do it as a journalist. And David can even attest to that. I was pretty much out of it the rest of the day. Once that hit pretty early on, I was like, I don't even want to be here. You know, what's the point? I obviously don't want to really cover shit for upload at this point. It's fruitless. I came because, you know, this is going to be my opportunity to network and talk to people so I can get beyond this point.
Yeah, because everyone was paid for it. Like your hotel, your flight, everything was
already paid for before everything happened. So, you know, my mindset was, I'm going to go to this. I'm going to network. After that, I am done with upload, and I'm moving on to the next thing. I still have bills to pay, so I've got to find something to do. I was thinking, you know, I could still write about comics, as hellacious as that is going to be. But a lot of people that I ran into, and just talking with David, talking with Ian, talking with Tal, meeting some other people. I believe I saw Khalif spawn on me.
I had him a couple episodes back,
Sharif was there. Once I, you know, started talking to the people, you know, and interacting with the people that I really enjoyed working with, it kind of reinvigorated me there. Like, I got the energy back, I got the fire back, and I was like, I'll find another way to get back to this point, and work with the people that I love working with. So,
no, that worked out. But I remember that, man. Like, I saw it go well for you, and then that story hit. And I was like, oh, no. Oh, no.
And that, I think the second year, that was the first year I met you, right?
Yes, I think so,
You were a big part of that as well, man.
Yeah, well, it's just terrible. But, like, when you hear the stories from behind the scenes, and I know you couldn't publicly talk about it, like, this dude is going through some shit right now. But like you said, like, the people who make this industry work, almost all of them are, like, great people. I think the people that we surround ourselves with, because the same people in the industry are the ones who cause all these problems. But if you operate within the proper circles, then like I said, they can make it, they can break it, and I'm glad you're surrounded yourself with people who made it. So what was the next step after that? What was the rebound for you after Upload VR?
Step after that was job hunting, sending out applications, looking at things, and just seeing what was out there. And I made the conscious decision that I'm going to apply for things that even I feel like I'm not personally qualified for, because I had a plan. Like when I joined Upload VR, I was like, okay, I'm here as a news writer for them, which is ideal because I would love to be an editor at some point. I'm going to work for, this amount of time, had the perfect plan, and then start applying for editor positions. Boom, like maybe, years down the line or something like that.
Everybody got a plan and get punched in the mouth, right?
Exactly. So punch right in the face, square in the mouth. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to apply for news editor position still. I can't even remember the other places I applied for. There were a couple. And I think there was one that tried to get me to do a different job or something like that. It wasn't something I was really comfortable with. But then David actually pushed me to apply with Shack News. And I was familiar with Shack News at that point because of Cassidy Moser, who's over at IGN now. She was at Shack News, and she's also one of the incredible humans I ended up meeting, at E3 and all these other events as well.
I should get her on the show. Yeah.
You definitely should. You definitely should. She's an incredible person. She has had a fantastic story that people definitely need to pay attention to. We've had her on Coins to Continue as well. So, she's incredible. But so he told me to apply. I didn't think I was qualified, but I knew that if I got a position, I would be able to handle it and actually do the work. And I'm going to make myself learn the position and do it. So I applied, and long story short, on that end, it went really well. Like I was super nervous to talk to them over the phone to do the interview, but I'd actually done another phone interview that I felt bombed. But then I talked to Asif and David, and it felt like I was talking to old friends. It flowed well. We had, similar ideas on, the news editor position and what they had in mind to cover, some of the things that weren't being covered that they would like to have knowledge on, which VR played a big part in that. Bringing that coverage there, just looking at, for technology and then gaming in general, which I was already pretty deeply embedded with, and building these relationships while doing that. And it went really well. I still didn't think it was going to happen. Even Cassidy, gave me a cosign with them. And I think that weekend, I wasn't expecting a call until the next week. And I got a message that weekend offering me the position. And it was the most amazing moment because there was so many things in one. It's like, I'm going to be able to write full time about games, which has been the dream. I'm going to I have a job. I'm able to pay the bills. And 3, I don't have to write for Upload anymore.
Leave it, please.
Like I can just skate completely away from that. And it also happened at the perfect time. I was in Birmingham, but my uncle, who I live with right now, when I moved away from Texas, which I didn't want to do, I love San Antonio. He moved here. He was stationed here. He's military. And he runs one of the hospitals on the base here. And he moved here and was like, hey, you can come stay with me rent free. I know you enjoy Texas, so come back. And I made the decision to do that with the pay that I was getting from Upload at that time. And I got the job with Shack News the week or 2 weeks before I was supposed to move. It's like it was almost poetic how everything kind of fell into place.
Because I remember you moving. Like, I missed the gap where you did not move. You never moved.
What you talking about? No, I did.
Okay. I was like, wait, did I miss that? I'm pretty sure you were like packing and everything. Okay.
Yeah, no, it happened. There was a long delay because of my vehicle where I had to get like the transmission fixed and everything. But yeah, it was. I was back in Birmingham, and then left the place that I was staying at back with my parents, and then came here. And I basically moved the first week of working. I was in between moving and getting set up and everything.
I got my story straight now. Okay, I was like,
yeah.
This is not right.
Yeah, it happened.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, like, you're the news editor for Shack News. What does your day look like as a full-time employee Shack News editor? Like,
wake up. Wonderful that I get to work from home first and foremost. Yeah. So I'll wake up and go straight to the computer. But my first task is checking to see what stories we missed the previous day. First and foremost, then looking. I have so many tabs on my computer. It's nuts. Yeah. But I have like specific ways I look into trending news topics, fresh news topics. At the time, and then there's certain things that I just go and check anyway. Like, is there a new update on this thing that we always cover? Yeah. For instance, Fortnite at this point. Fortnite is a hot topic no matter what. So it's like, that's something we check. Hey, is this going? Is something going on with it? But I have a shit ton of feeds for everything at this point. But then creating a board of those items, because we have a team. Yeah. Creating a board of those items for all of us to start working throughout the day, while also looking for new things that happen throughout the day too.
Like breaking.
So it's pretty rapid fire. For me, it's kind of a good pace for me to have researched and written a story every hour, while also getting more stories and adding them to the board, and also replying to emails and everything, because that is definitely a part of the job.
Yeah, it's a managing job almost.
Yeah, definitely. Getting the team task on things. We have a wonderful team of people. I'm very lucky in that regard, because it would be a lot more difficult with people that you don't like working with. Yeah. But we have people that are on their shit on their ends. Doing, because we have reviews, we have guides, editor, and everything, and then me, the news editor, and then us as the editor in chief. It flows like a well-oiled machine 99% of the time, which is thankful, especially because we're remote. All of us we're not in the same room, so we have to flow well for things to go, because if there's no communication, then everything goes to shit. Basically,
what I noticed is like that's very much a writing industry job. But this year you made a last minute appearance at PAX East. You were not going to go, but I think you guys got booth space last minute. So I was like, oh, cool, I'm gonna hang out with Charles. But then, he's like on camera all the time. You're like a big shot. Like, how did that happen?
That whole situation, it wasn't necessarily that Shack News got last minute booked space. It was that one of the people that was supposed to go wasn't able to go. Okay. So or they needed help. It was one of those things, or a combination. Yeah. So I got to go last minute. Now this got me in trouble with my girlfriend as well. Hello, Sierra. I'm definitely going to convince her to watch this. I had no idea how much work I was in for when I got there. I was like, oh, I'm going to PAX. I'm going to do my usual thing as I go events. Go to the appointments. Yeah. Write it up in between, write it up at night, get it published, and go see all the people I want to see. That did not happen at all.
No. I saw you, I think, once on an escalator for like 20 seconds.
You and I met John on an escalator as well. That was wonderful. Oh, by the way, I saw him buy an escalator again at PAX West.
Good, yeah.
It wasn't even on purpose. Yeah, it just happened. We made a joke about it before.
Yeah. I saw that.
It happened. Yeah. So I get there and they're like, okay, sometimes you'll be filling in on camera to do the in-person interviews. And we were sponsored by Chips Ahoy to do Sea of Thieves streams. Yeah. So that was like the first thing we did every day, and then the interviews. And what basically happened was, we started off, it was going well. I didn't completely shit the bed doing the interviews. No. But then Greg, our incredible interview guy, started losing his voice on the first day. Yeah. And he was already feeling it. So it's like, shit. And I was like, all right, well, I can sub in for him to give him a little bit of a break. So it was like, I started looking at the things that we had appointments for that I was familiar with, and, helping out with that more and more. He'd completely lost it by the end of the event. but I just got more involved and started helping schedule people to do some of the interviews. I got a Black Oni. You should actually have him on the show as well. Yeah. He's a Twitch streamer, incredible human. Got him on to talk about things. Sean Alexander got him on to talk about games and stuff. And there were so many more people I wanted to get on. It's just too busy, too last minute for a lot of the things. Yeah. Tanya DePass for one, who we've interacted for years. Yeah. And finally met like a bunch of times this year, and
she's wonderful.
Yeah, she's an incredible human.
Episode 13, if you want to see her.
Yes, indeed. A nice plug, perfect. Yeah. But it never stopped. It was like I was on the floor the whole time. When the floor closed, we still did a stream after that. Yeah. So we did a stream to close out for Sea of Thieves. And then I went home and went to sleep. I didn't want to do anything.
I didn't see you at any of the parties, drinks, nothing.
No, I saw the CGM folks. Lisa, she's over there, and Brendan. I went and saw them at like a restaurant in one of the hotels as I was leaving. I was like, "Oh, I haven't had any food. I'm gonna eat, talk to them, and then go to my room and pass out." That was pretty much my day every single day.
It's not bad because all you do to yourself is just be more tired the next day.
Pretty much, yeah. And I started to lose my voice towards the end too, but Asif taught me the ways of green tea in the mornings instead of the coffee that I was doing, and that ended up helping. Yeah. But the snow didn't help. It did snow while we were there, so that was nuts.
I only seen it was super cold. I remember. I didn't I Ubered everywhere basically, so I barely got any fresh air. But I do remember having to walk to I think it was the What's Good Games meetup that I had to walk to, and it was cold as hell.
Yeah, we tried. The place we were staying in wasn't very far from the convention center. And the first day we were like, we're super badass. We're going to go get coffee in the morning. And me, Donovan, and Greg, we walked outside. It smacked us in the face. We called an Uber. Because,
Boston. But so now you have on-camera experience. Is that something, what is the next step for someone like you? Like you, I know you are a writer. You're a writer like through and through. But you must be getting the taste for it, because I we're going to talk about your podcast later. But what's next for you, man?
I really don't know, dude. I'm still in that mindset of I am super fucking lucky to be where I am right now. Yeah. And just with everything that has happened and the fact that I can do this full time, I'm appreciating it. That's not to say that I'm undervaluing myself at Shack News. Like they're paying me extremely well. I'm very happy there, and I love the team. And I would like to see everything grow with them, because there are other opportunities that are basically reflected where I am currently. Yeah. For example, doing the on-camera stuff. Yeah. I can do that, through Shack News. We live stream now every day of the week, Monday through Friday. Yeah. So there's opportunities there, and I'm already doing the news editing side of things. And we're growing. Like, the site was already pretty big. We had back to back record months of growth, like the most views that we've had, or the most unique visitors that we've had in the site's 20 plus year history. Yeah. So, I'm seeing the growth here. I'm being a part of the growth. We have a wonderful team to grow with. So that's really all I'm looking at, and that's completely honest, because Asif's probably going to watch this. That's not a statement just for job security purposes. No. I actually believe that, and I really love what we're doing. So.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So I want to talk about you, because you do all this, and then on the side you're still running your podcast with Katie Picasholita, who I have episode 3, if you want to see her on that.
Yes.
How did that start? And that partnership between you and Katie as well. Did you know each other beforehand, or how did that grow?
Yeah. We interacted beforehand. I had a pretty solid understanding of the type of person she was, and Felicia as well, who's a part of the early stages, and Andrea, which I don't know if she's been on an episode yet. Has she? Simply Andrea.
Oh, no, not yet. No. Okay. Just so people know, if they don't know, Coins to Continue.
Yes, is the podcast. Sorry, I didn't even mention that.
Plug yourself, man. Plug yourself.
Yes, yes. The Coins to Continue podcast, the number 2. Yeah. But I shout out to GM. He's a guy that ran the Blind Box podcast. And he wanted to create the Blind Box Network and cover a whole bunch of different things. He was doing incredibly like groundbreaking stuff for the podcast scene on his end, not specifically on gaming or anything like that. He had some ideas for gaming, but he actually reached out to me and was like, "Hey, we would like to get a gaming podcast on our network." And because of like my connections and the things that I've done, and me and him actually met each other through me covering music and going to events, met him in person there. And he was like, he gave me a blank slate. Yeah. It was like, create the show that you think should be made. What do you feel should be in the space? Yeah. And while I 100% appreciated that I was given that opportunity, and I'm a Black man getting that opportunity. Yeah. I had always wanted to see more women of color with the opportunity as well. So my thought process was like, all right, I have the show, but I'm going to get women of color on it as well. And because I saw other shows that were fantastic, that I kind of wanted to model myself after. Spawn on Me being one of the prime examples, with the interviews they do and just the commentary that they have, and the fact that they weren't scared to touch the things that were a bit more sensitive, actually take a stance on a side as opposed to playing the fucking fence the entire time, right in the middle. I almost mentioned a name, but I don't want to do that.
No, let's not do that boogie right now.
Well done, sir. But I was like, but I didn't know who, right? Yeah. And I reached out to a couple of people just to get an idea of like who would possibly be available for it. And I was like, I'm nobody at this point. Yeah. So I felt like weird asking people to do a podcast with me, because like, even Katie and Andrea and Felicia, eventually, I didn't think that they would accept the offer to join at all. Yeah. Like, I was like shooting for the stars when I asked them. And then they said yes. And I was like, you got to be fucking kidding me. It's like, now I actually have to do this thing. And Andrea was actually recommended by a couple of people, but I had never personally interacted with her. So I definitely didn't think it was going to happen. And then with Katie, I was like, she's so busy, and, we interact, but she don't really know me like that. And then she was super excited. So we started the show. Yeah. It was it was a lot of fun to like kind of figure things out, because I had to basically learn about podcast production.
It's fun
from scratch. Yeah. Andrea ended up leaving at one point, and she was going to do things part-time, but she's had a lot of stuff going on professionally and personally. We still have a lot of love for her. She's still part of everything. We love her to death. But then Felicia came on full-time, and then with Felicia, she's also now, I don't even know if you know this, but she's the games editor at Digital Trends now.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, she's the game section editor there. She left a little bit before that, but she was trying to focus. She was at the point where I was when I was going from Coalition to freelancing and then to like a full-time job. Yeah. When she was doing Coins to Continue, she was in the midst of that. Yeah. And then now she has a wonderful position at Digital Trends, which I'm super happy for her, because she definitely deserves it. She's been doing, the work for a very, very long time too, even for free early on. But then we started doing the show. People really appreciated the perspective that we were able to offer. All of our chemistry, that was another thing that was good. Our chemistry was good between all of us. None of us had done a podcast. The only person that had like any kind of public interactions on camera or voice was Andrea. So she was a natural, and we kind of fed off of her at that point, and learned a lot from her. And, then me and Katie ended up being the only two people left. And I was like, do we want to find someone else or that could possibly throw off the chemistry? Should we stick with this? Should we drop the show entirely? And at one point, like, I was just in my own head, and I didn't even talk to Katie about it. And I was like, Katie's not going to want to do this anymore. Like, she's going to be done. It was like, I just painted the worst timeline in my head. Like, everything's going to fall apart. We're done. Yeah. So then I was like, all right, let me just go ahead and ask her and get it going. And she gave me like the most incredible like speech on continuing the show. She wanted to do it. She was 100% dedicated to it. So it's continued. It's been sporadic now because our schedules are psychotic.
Yeah.
Because like her switching jobs and me on my schedule all over the place trying to do as much as possible. But Coins to Continue continues.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
And people watch it. It trips me out that people watch and listen to the show. Like even with us being on a lengthy hiatus, we still got a lot of people that go and listen to the old episodes. I feel like something must have happened with a tweet where people found the show and started listening to it. Yeah, because I was like, it's been weeks since we put out a new episode and people are listening to it. So I appreciate it, man. It's a crazy experience learning to do a podcast from the ground up. Shout out to B. Will. He's a guy that actually does our audio engineering. Like cleaning up the audio and stuff, and we make that as difficult for him as possible.
Yeah, I don't do any cleanup on this show.
Yeah, like I wanted. We started off not really doing much cleanup on it, but I wanted to structure it a certain way, and I had like this whole plan. And he, he works with us. He did the theme music for the show, the intro, and the songs that you'll hear with that throughout. He's been, wonderful, giving us kind of like our own flavor and making us stand out more. So I appreciate him. But yeah, it's been a wild ride, and I hope that it keeps going. I enjoy doing that.
Yeah, if you don't mind talking a little bit shop about podcasts, because I have a show or something like that as well. How did you manage to grow your show? Like, how did you find that audience starting from scratch? Because the easiest part technically is like creating the content. Like it's a lot of work, but there are a lot of people making a lot of great content and never taking off, never finding an audience. Like how did you guys manage to do that? Because you had a very specific voice in this podcast that might have helped.
Right.
But can you explain a little bit how that worked?
First, I have to say that we are still growing. This is Coins to Continue. We're doing for free.
Yeah.
We'll probably be doing it for free for a very long time until like the perfect situation happens for us. But we're we're in no rush to like creating any kind of partnership that doesn't make sense to keep it going. But one thing you said is true. The voice itself, I think, played a big part in that because we are no bullshit. Like us, not playing the fence.
Yeah.
We know the facts on a lot of things, and we'll be straight up about them. When they come to very sensitive conversations, we're not scared to have them at all. Katie can be exceptionally outspoken. She already is. If you look at her social media, you have an idea of what she's like.
I love Katie so much.
Yeah,
she's the best.
She is the best. She brings that fire to the show as well, and I have, I'm outspoken in my own way, but it mixes well with her. And even before that, Andrea and Felicia, same thing.
Yeah.
So we've attracted people that appreciate that. Now, beyond that, I have no fucking idea.
It drives me nuts, man, because I have the exact same problem. Like, I know some of my audience. Like, I know my tribe, because that's the most important thing. Like, getting that small tribe that is always listening, always giving feedback, engagement.
Exactly.
But podcasts are impossible to track. Like, I have literally no idea who listens to the show, because I get some data from, like, a SoundCloud. iTunes doesn't give a shit about you or want to tell you how you're doing. YouTube, like, views versus minutes, like, it's terrible. Because you are audio only, right?
Audio only, yes.
And where do you host?
SoundCloud, so it goes to all the different podcast directories, which that's a shift that we did to get our show out to a larger audience, which I feel like it's done that, thankfully. But yeah, you're right. I have no idea. Like I have the tribe, a guy, Rodimus Prime, him and his wife, her Twitter ad is Say That Again, I believe. They do a show called the Black Guy Who Tips podcast. Wonderful, wonderful show. But he was actually tweeting about something with where don't tailor your podcast to your social media audience because that's only going to be a small part. And he's 100% right.
Oh yeah.
Because when I look at the play count, I'm like, I don't know 90% of these people. Like they're not tweeting us, they're not commenting on Facebook or anything, but they listen.
Yeah.
Some of them have been my friends and I didn't know it.
Fair enough.
But that's just a testament to the fact that social media is only going to show you a little bit.
Yeah.
These statistics and stuff, like I think another tip that he had in there was like, just do the show that you want to do, which is definitely what we do.
Yeah.
So we're just gonna do the show that we want to do. People are gonna catch it. People that listen straight through SoundCloud and stuff. These random accounts, people that are following it and like it. I have no idea how they found out about it. Yeah. It's probably not through Twitter. Yeah. It might be through one of the other podcast directories, but all we can do is just do what we know and
watch the numbers.
Yeah, it just grows from there. It's like do the work and hopefully the people will come.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it always surprised me like how small the social media click through rate is. Because when I started and now when I was with Loot Crate, I attempted this before, but I had no idea what I was doing. It was still good, super good. But I expected like that my audience, when they would say, "Oh, he has a podcast now, we're all gonna go and listen." Like, no, it's like you get like 0.5%, maybe, which is average engagement rate. To be honest, if you look at Twitter data. So now I'm like, okay, how am I gonna expand beyond that? But like, also what you said, it also doesn't matter because just make the show that you want to make, and then it will come. But I love about your show, and I haven't listened to all of it because we all have so many talented friends. It's hard to keep track of everything.
Very true.
I wish I could edit it in, but I probably won't be able to find it. Is one of your episodes? You're having like a heated debate. It was, I think it was about representation of people of color in video games, and like you're like having this conversation with Katie, and then it's almost as if you turn to the camera and you're like, and I know we have enough people that there's probably one contrarian in there, and let me talk to you right now specifically. I remember that. And I was like, wow, I love this because, like you said, it is so easy to want to chase that growth and not ever want to step on anyone's toes. But I think there are enough content creators that we don't have to do that because we can get our own audiences. So I always have some trouble with that mild vanilla cater to everybody approach. But to be honest, when I look at my own show, I probably cater a lot to like the liberal people. My guests are all we're kind of in the same bubble. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking about the other day, and I was like, do I want to, like, all of a sudden
venture out of that?
Yeah, like yes, I cater to that audience because that's me. Like, I make this show because I want to talk to these people who I find interesting and have things in common with. Like, I'm not gonna invite some asshole on my show that I super disagree with, unless they have a super interesting like origin story, maybe. But then again, he or she, it's probably going to be white dude, 27 years old, has plenty of platforms to tell his story on. So, like you said, like I'm doing what I want to do. But yeah, if you're listening to this, like, oh, he's always inviting the same kind of guest. Yes, I do, because those are my friends. But the community is so important because I have one member who is always supportive. Bite-sized manga. If you're listening, hopefully, like he's always on top of everything. He tweeted me like, "Hey, you just hit 1,000 unique views on YouTube." I was like, "I did not know that yet," but I love that awesome. that feeling of tribe where you build your audience. That's the most beautiful thing I think you can have as a content creator, like that loyal fan base. Hunter, who has supported me from the beginning. Like, do you have some of those members in your audience that you always pick out? And not people like we've met, because like we've met, I'm a big fan of you. But those people from the general audience who just stand out as top-notch community members. Like, do you have any of those in your crew?
We do, and before I get into them, like I want to throw something out. Another opportunity that we got is being able to host our podcast now, or post it rather, on shacknews.com.
Oh, really?
Which is awesome. Yeah. Asif actually asked me to do that. I never would have approached him to do that. Yeah. And I think he said he knew that. I never would have asked for it, but it's a wonderful opportunity. Now, I'll tell you this: that doesn't mean it translates to millions of views for the show. No. You know, the Shack News community, they go for what they want. And we do have some people from the Shack News community that have come along for the ride and really enjoy the podcast. And they ask me about the show, too. One of those people that that came from that viewership over is Bad Kitty. She's like one of the most like, I don't know how to even put it, like dedicated listeners to anything or dedicated like consumers of all of this stuff. She live tweets the show, she'll message us about it and stuff. And she's incredible. She listens to the Hashcast over on Shack News, and she started listening to Coins to Continue as well. And she's super supportive. Other Shackers in the community, recently asked me, because when I was live streaming, they're like, hey, when's the next Coins to Continue episode? And I'm like, I didn't know you even cared. Like, this is awesome. But JJ Sky is one of the people that's been there with Coins to Continue pretty much since the beginning. Double R on Twitter has been supporting us since the beginning. I know that there's people behind this. You probably see him a lot on Twitter, on Katie's feed. He's on our streams a lot. Supportive dude. There's so many. The guy named Wesley on Twitter. There's so many different names that I see all the time. They're retweeting, they're favoriting, they're asking us questions for that segment and stuff. A couple friends of mine, Michael and Jeff, they're always trying to interact as much as possible and listen to the show. And I appreciate them. So yeah, and then people that from other communities, you, for example, Sharif, Khalif, and Cicero give us a lot of love. Friend of mine, AJ, they have their own show, and shout us out when they can. Like, it's just dope to see that interaction. But I've got to find that balance where the people that there's going to be people just like with streaming. There's always lurkers that are just there and they're watching and they've got the stream on, they're listening while doing other stuff. There's people like that for the podcast too, and I appreciate those people when I'm streaming. I've got to learn to appreciate those people when I'm doing the podcast. Like, I may never see a name or put a name to a face or anything like that. But it's awesome that we're in that phase where we have to find that balance with so many people that listen to the show. But it's encouraging, and I appreciate everybody if they happen to watch this. I appreciate all of you because it's kept going.
Yeah, we couldn't do it without people listening and watching the show. Like, even if you never ever engage, you're still there. You're still making it worth. Even when sometimes you get like, I didn't get as many listens or views as my previous episode, but those are still people taking time out of their day to listen, and that is, you cannot appreciate that enough, I think. So you're audio only. Any plans to go on video nowadays, or is that just too much editing to add?
We've tried it. Just doing live streams. We may get to a point where we do it again. Like, it'll be like a special episode that we do live streams on. But it's hard to do with our schedule. We're both so busy, and we have to set aside the time to do it and set aside the time to edit for the regular show. But we do have some plans to cover topics that are not gaming related in a separate show. Like small, one topic things that'll go up just on a random day for people to check out. For the people that enjoy listening to us, we're going to try to give them as much content as possible to check out, while also maintaining the Friday show. If videos get into the mix, it may happen, but
you need staff.
We need staff. And for the people that don't know, Pikachu Lita, she streams. She's a live streamer. She's a streamer as well. And, she has that to do. And I feel like I wouldn't want to distract from that. Like, that's something that I could like promote people to. If you want to see one of our faces, and I do the Shack News streams, come check us out on those platforms. Otherwise, for the audio side, you have the Coins to Continue podcast.
Oh, that's awesome. That is awesome. God, I need a website to just tell me like, hey, you want to link your show on our website? That would be fantastic. That would be my next step. So if you're listening and you want to sponsor this podcast, we'll get into that in a bit, because my last segment of the show is always podcast and chill. Now, I've had your Twitter handle on screen, but there's people listening. So where can we find you, and is there anything you want to promote or shill for?
You can find us on Twitter. We try to engage as much as possible. It's Coins, the number 2, continue on Twitter, our handle. But you can find us on the Coins to Continue podcast is on SoundCloud. We're on Podbean. We're on Google Play. the iTunes Store, pretty much any Stitcher as well. Any of the podcast directories you can think of, we're probably there. We're not on Spotify yet. We're trying to figure that out.
Spotify. Good luck with that.
Yeah, if you can't find us, we ask that you let us know on whatever directory so we can get there. And then shacknews.com, we go up on the website there as well. But you can find Katie on Twitch at Pikachu Lita, pretty much exactly how it sounds. Pikachu Lita, all one word. And you can find me streaming on the Shack News official Twitch channel, which is just / Shack News, and that's Monday through Friday we stream. I am typically there in one way or another. I'm the host, which is Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays most of the time, or I'm a co-host with Krabs Gerard. He's an incredible human. He is hilarious, and he can go off into some interesting places. So you should definitely listen to the not listen to the podcast, but watch the show to check him out. And then shacknews.com, because I'm the news editor there. Of course.
So. And on Twitter? Where are you on Twitter?
My handle on Twitter is _CSJR.
All right. Awesome. Well, and I also have to shill for myself, and of course I am the Hashtagonist, and you can find me on Twitter at the Hashtagonist, where the O is a 0, and if you're listening to this through any of the channels, that's probably where you can get all your news. And I'm gonna shill for a new show that I just started, Hashtastic Games, where I'm actually attempting to do video reviews and VO and stuff, and it's all terrible, but it was the first attempt and it was not bad. Shadow of the Tomb Raider is now up, and I'll hopefully get to do that more, because you have to stay relevant in the gaming space, and reviews the best way to do it, because
unless you decide to copy other people's reviews. That's irrelevant.
Yeah, that would be bad. I think that would cost you your career.
Yeah, it could definitely end your career completely.
Yes, but apparently you can build your career on it for years until you get found out.
Yep.
Ah, man. What a story that was. We'll get into that another time. Charles, thank you so much, man, for coming on. I was looking at the time and it just flew by.
Yeah, it definitely did fly by. But thank you for having me. It's an honor. It's always good to talk to you when we can. Anyway,
I was talking to my buddy. We were having beers before the show, and I was like, I like doing this because I get to just hang out for an hour with interesting, cool people, and that's enough already. But you are still listening, so I appreciate you so much. And please check in again next week, because I will have another cool special guest and a medium host. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.